Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Living on Lemonade podcast. As always, I am your host, Lauren. This is take two because I spent 25 or 26 minutes recording an episode and the audio is messed up. So hopefully this run goes better. I did do a couple tests. If the audio doesn't sound as good, it's because it's my computer audio and this guy, I don't know what's going on with it or what. I got to figure it out. Anywho, I do want to record because we are heading to the boat shortly. So I wanted to get a couple things done. Tomorrow's my granny's 101st birthday. So by the time this podcast is published, my grandma's birthday will have been the day before. So I'm recording Saturday, her birthday Sunday, and this will come out Monday. I'm going to try and keep this a lot shorter this time and summarize what I was blabbering on with the previous episode. Essentially what I was talking about is how lovely, like the beauty of having a soul care tool belt and the fact that we can like change up our routines a little bit. And once we have these kind of this awareness of these practices, we can pick and choose and use them however we want, when we want, depending on what season we're in and really how they're most helpful. So, how that's been showing up for me lately is my normal morning routine of doing the 10-minute morning meditation followed by the card pull. I've been feeling a little uninspired and it started to feel like a bit of a should, which is something that I keep in my awareness. When I feel things start to be a should, I start to get curious about it. And how that's shifted for me is I still do the 10-minute morning meditation, but instead of really focusing on the guided part, sometimes if I just don't really want to fully partake, I just use it as a timer, like a 10-minute timer to just like breathe consciously, nice and deep. And it gives me that base kind of intention for waking up my body nicely and warming up my brain and starting my day from a place of just like a slow pace, not chaotic, but nice and um, intentional. So that's just an example of how we can tweak or adjust a practice that we have to suit our needs in the moment. I haven't been pulling cards every day. Sometimes I do. I do have a new deck and I might pull a card a little bit after this, but it has given me an opportunity or the awareness that um I need to go a little bit deeper into my intention of like why am I feeling resistance against it? And because when I look at the root of why I pull the card, it's so that I have a connection with my own soul every day, every morning. So I have to think about that because it is important to me, but do I want it to look a little bit different or with a different practices, or should I do some journaling? Or what is that going to look like? How am I going to evolve it or adjust it? The other thing I was talking about is how normally this time of year I don't do any quilting. I wait till it's more winter time. And yeah, just a different time of season. I don't tend to like make a mess with all my fabrics and stuff when it's a busy season. However, I have had some days off. I spent a couple of nights at my mom's. I visited my granny. My mom helped me kind of confirm the measurements and I made some boat fenders for the boat for Eric. And then we made these bowl cozies that we're gonna sell because I have so much stash that I know I'm not gonna make quilts with everything. So looking at other ways to use some of the stash in making things that are I find like helpful and useful. And I love our bowl cozies because if we make like a hot soup or something, put it into a bowl, we'll just have it in the cozy and then eat it from there. For especially if we're watching like we would like to watch Beard Meets Food when he has new episodes. He's on YouTube. Anyway, using time to kind of fill my cup that way and spending time connected with my family. And I also have one of my besties is coming this, by the time this publishes, it'll be later this week for a visit for a couple nights. And she's having a baby. So I wanted to make a quilt for her. And that kind of that motivated me to sit in front of my machine, and I've spread it out over a few days. Like one day I cut out that project and another one because I wanted to do the same pattern for a second quilt. So I got both cut out. And then another day I laid out the quilt on the floor, and then another day I sewed the top together, and then another day I pinned it and quilted it, and then yesterday I did the binding. So it's been nice to kind of spread it out over multiple days when I have the time and the energy. And sometimes it's just I need to just start doing the things and it'll kind of like get me in motion. So I felt inspired last night after I finished the quilt for Hillary to lay out the second quilt that I had already cut out. And then I ended up putting the quilt top together last night. And then today I pinned it. So it's ready to quilt. I'll do it a different day when I've got some time and I feel inspired. Yeah, so it's interesting how we can use our tools whenever we want. So even though typically I don't quilt this time of season, doesn't mean I can't if I get a bit of an urge or I've got a reason to, and then it kind of sparks some inspiration to work on a couple other projects. I had also just bought some fabric for a third project, and I'm like working through my queue. I've had this ongoing queue for years, and I'm like, maybe I'll actually get caught up. So that's also been a motivator. Um, yeah, it's been nice. And even though I haven't been pulling cards, I feel like when we sew, it's so kind of one of those we get into that meditative state. It's repetitive and it allows us to sink into that deeper kind of consciousness. And another thing that I've enjoyed with doing a lot of sewing over the past few days is I've been binging a podcast on grief. And I've noticed because I've been kind of avoiding that subject matter for a while, just depending on how I'm feeling, I go through phases where I just like, I can't go there. But I'm noticing lately I've been building my capacity through just being very intentional and taking care of myself, making sure that when I do have days off, which I've been on a stretch of days off and haven't got an overtime call, and I'm at the top of the list, which means I have been offered the least amount of hours, so I'll be the next one to be called. I was kind of hoping for an overtime or two, and it's interesting how sometimes it just works out the way you need it to. And I've had these lovely days to just rest and relax, um, and just feed my soul before the busy season really starts. And yeah, it's allowed me to get some projects done and just sleep in, get some more rest, and be intentional and listen. And I've been inspired to listen to this grief called podcast called "So Sorry for Your Loss." I think that's what it's called. Anyway, um, yeah, it's been a nice few days. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I talked about or wanted to talk about when I recorded last a few minutes ago. I did want to, I forgot to talk about it when I recorded last, but I did want to talk briefly about how I've just been prioritizing. Oh, and how part of building my nervous system capacity and my resilience I've been practicing when I'm preaching. Because one of the ways that's really important is when you are in times of, when things are a little, uh, I guess I wouldn't say chaotic. There's been lots going on, but I find those moments to kind of get back into the present. But especially when you're anticipating like a busy season, like I have with work, it's very important to have that stability still. So last weekend, we were kind of bouncing around between the boat and other things. But I found myself coming home at night to sleep. I was still on rotation. I worked Friday and the Sunday. We had Saturday off. It was my dad's birthday. We went to Detroit, went to a Tigers game to kind of celebrate him. Went for a nice, lovely boat ride with our boat friends that were at a park there, marina, and they took us out on the Detroit River. We went under the new Gordie Howe Bridge now that it's all connected, and the Ambassador, and it was just very magical. And my dad would have loved it. And it was just kind of, it's like you can plan for your day, but leave room for magic. And that was the magic of that day. And around that schedule, I still, as much as it's nice being at the boat, but I just sometimes I get a little anxious and just like I want to have some stability around my schedule. I want to make sure that I get a good night's sleep, that I can just have kind of my morning routine in the morning and make my protein shake. I don't have a blender at the boat, so it's just like the routine just super different. So I just made sure that I was still sleeping at home. I could like have my shower at night at home and get into my PJs and read a little bit before I sleep, and then just have that routine because it provides that stability when you're in a time that otherwise might be dysregulating or a little bit chaotic or a little topsy-turvy. So that's another thing that I've been really focusing on, is keeping that bit of that routine, that stability. So when some other things are a little bit iffy or I have to pivot and adjust to it, I still have that kind of foundation laid that helps me to kind of stay grounded. Yeah, and then adding the extra practices and just the quiet time this week has been really nourishing. I recommend it for anyone and everyone. Keep those, what do you need to remain stable, and keep those boundaries around the importance of having that routine, having those things set up that just keep you grounded so that you can navigate all the rest of it. And what's in your tool belt of practices that you can just like pick and choose from day to day, however that looks. Change up your routine if you're feeling uninspired by it. Maybe you'll come back to it. Maybe you'll just evolve. Maybe you'll just tweak it. And yeah, that's it for today. I hope that helps with your journey, and just keeping that mindfulness, that conscious thought around these things. Get curious, stay curious. All right, everyone, have a wonderful week. And I did just finish posting in the Living on Lemonade Facebook community. I have the link in the show notes if you haven't joined and you would like to be in there with us. I have all the events scheduled. The next masterclass, or sorry, the next class, I don't want to call it a masterclass anymore, but sometimes it slips off the tongue. The next class will be on sleep, and it will be July 8th. And we have two soul care hours, one on the 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern time, one on the 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. The one on the 18th, I'll be doing some card pulls and just like talking about my process when I do intuitive card reading. So if you want to hang out, the Zoom links will be inside the Facebook group. The monthly classes are always just live in the group. They live there, and then I make them into a podcast episode. So yeah, take care, everyone, and we will see you inside the next episode. Bye.